This is a passionate plea for the sake of others, because it seems when I play it for myself from the depths of my soul, as I was reaching out and up from the abyss of my life that was dragging me down, it felt as if no one could hear my silent screams for help. Screams so loud and panicked it tore my vocal cords into splinters and wrenched my throat until the pain felt like sandpaper against a cement wall, only no one could hear it. Until one day, as I was about to give up, give in, and claim that I was defeated, I was saved. And my Savior didn't just happen by one day as I continued my rants and ravings, as I cursed and clawed, as drool drizzled down my chin, as my eyes were dry, parched of moisture, no longer shedding tears, but felt like steel pads, as I blinked away the day and cowered from the night. No, my Savior was there the entire time. On those days when I knew that I was going to have to make some one more devastating decision, but it's going to be the last, I swear, I won't have to do this again decision. My Savior was right there. And when I was tearing to shreds the last vestiges of hope that I had, because there wasn't enough nickels or dimes or pesos coming my way, and I just was going down that dark and dismal tunnel because I didn't care if there was a light at the end. And just when I was signing off and saying my goodbyes, I was through yelling and fighting, debating, procrastinating, and pontificating. There he was. And I said I wasn't going to plead anymore. I knew what I'd done. I wasn't proud of it. And if I had to do it again, well, I just have to cross that bridge, wouldn't I? But I know in the back of my mind, I was still crying out for help. I was still hoping on hope that help would come. And even though I'd committed myself to the inevitable, I'd set myself on a course of no return. But he was right there, all along. He was actually waiting for me to stop all the screaming, yelling, and confusion I was putting myself through. And when that happened, there he was. His hand was out, and his arms were around me, and I was gathered into them like a baby. And I cried the cleansing cry of the lost soul who just wanted somebody to listen. I realized that had I not stopped and taken stock of myself, my life, my present, what I was about to embark upon, I would never have heard him. So I make this passionate plea to you, you who seem to believe that there is no way out, no one person who will come to your aid, hold your hand, see you through, stand by your side, give you a shoulder to cry on, listen when you're down, celebrate with you when all is well, be in the midst, or just be quiet and let you know that there's just where you want them to be when you need assurance. I have a Savior. He wants to be yours too.
Well, hi everybody. This is Joe Bright, and I am your host for Poetry Song BFD Battle for Dominance. You can follow me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, name the social media platform. But why don't you just go ahead and do this? Go to my website. It's mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. I'm going to say it again. Mama Yaya, MOMMAYAYA .wixsite.com/website. And you can hear this broadcast and everything else that I've done. You can watch my videos on YouTube. Y'all having a good day? I believe today was officially the first full day of fall. And I say that because I live up here in the north where everybody has had some extremely unseasonably warm weather. So, but don't tell nobody. There's no such thing as climate change, remember? And so it was nice and cool and brisk and wet. And believe it or not, if you're not from here, you kind of look forward to that this time of year. So it was really nice to have. We had some haze, had a little rain, but it wasn't cold. It was just enough to get out there and, take in some deep breath. So there we are. Joe Bright here for Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. So what am I talking about tonight? There's so much going on in the news. There's so much going on everywhere. So I said, I'm going to just give you a little cornucopia of stuff tonight. And so right now, and we got to talk about this because there are certain things that happen in our day that, big media, they keep telling you what to listen to. But just check this out. Did you know that today was Mental Health Day? Yes, October 11th today is Mental Health Day. Ironic, isn't it? Considering we have a sitting president whose mental health is always in question. You gotta laugh at that. You have to. Mental Health Day. Everybody should be sending condolences to his wife. Okay, so why am I saying that? Because just let's be really clear. You don't even have to wait for the day to pass. You can wait for the hour to pass, and he'll have done something uniquely him because he's his own sycophant. Truly, he loves to see his face and his words everywhere. He just absolutely loves it. And you know that old adage that no news is good news, bad publicity is better than no publicity. That's who he is. He likes it all. So I'm reading the headlines this morning, and apparently this person, number 45, actually wants more nukes. You know, decades ago, the presidents and the Congress and the Senate and the House of Republicans, all of them got together and said no nukes. There was protests on the street, people waving signs, no more nukes, no more nukes. And this numbnuts decides we don't have enough. Does he realize that we only need one to destroy the planet per country? If we have a nuke and North Korea has a nuke and China has a nuke and Russia has a nuke and, all of the other nations, Australia, even in Africa, if they all had nukes, just one, we could destroy every living thing on this planet. So why do we need more? Enough said. I'm done. He he is a mental health issue all on his own. And on that note, guess what? I screeched past this just before I went live right now. Representative Al Green, Democrat of Texas. Y'all remember who Al Green is? Yes, that Al Green, the singer, now Republican. He put forth a vote on articles of impeachment on the floor, but they stopped him short of the vote. And I read up on it, and apparently he has 2 days to present that again. And he said, I'm not done yet. So, things are going the way we want them to go. If all of these representatives and congressmen and senators who are totally against what's going on can get together and just say, you know what, let's put this articles of impeachment out on the floor and let's just see what we can do about making this president see that, we're just sick and tired of your nonsense. Articles of impeachment. And I just want to put that out there right now, people. I've been praying for his impeachment since before he even got in office. I prayed for impeachment the night that he won the election. And my friends were saying, oh, girl, give him a chance. A chance to do what? Worse? Apparently, only among my friends, Michelle Obama and I were the only ones who knew what kind of an idiot he was going to be. Yeah, I lost a lot of friends that night. Not on purpose. They accidentally stopped talking to me. I'm Joe Bright, and this is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. That's what we're constantly doing every day. I want y'all to listen to this. It's called I Am Affected.
I am affected by your smile, witty and thoughtful, deceiving and beguiling, amorous and suspicious, your impressive giving nature that is you. I am affected by your posture, sitting up straight, back pressed firmly against the cushion, eyes forward, listening intently, hanging on my every word, poised for the confrontation destined to come. I am affected by your thoughts, summations and suppositions wound tightly together by a single strand of perception, by your tomes on your shelves, stacked neatly, read thoroughly. I am affected by your perceptions, the way you process information and extricate simplistic meaning from an enigma that is merely life. I am deeply affected by you, what you are, what you will be, what you have become.
I have to say that is my favorite. I wrote that a few years ago, but I have to tell you, I wrote that because I was affected by my children. I was having conversations with my children, and they just seemed to me to be at these very tender ages as they were becoming teenagers, young teenagers, that they were so eloquent and they were so, well, that's the word I was looking for, right? They were eloquent. They knew what they thought and they shared their opinions. And I was the person that always told her children, you are allowed to say whatever you want to say in this house so long as you say it with respect. And so we had a lot of very good conversations in my home, at the kitchen, in the kitchen, at the table. And so I appreciate that particular poem. I Am Affected. I'm Johanna Bright, your host for Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. And tonight I'm just giving you all a little cornucopia of things that I saw happening today that I thought, we need to make sure that we don't just get pulled in by what the headlines say and just go, oh my gosh, that's going on. Because there are so many things going on that once that headline loses its flavor, they're going to move on to the next exciting story. So I just want to back up right now and let's just talk about these two black men at this baseball game. Let's just be real clear. They were not bothering anyone. And they decided that they were going to sit in a silent protest during the national anthem. And these two young white girl college students from a Christian college, I'm not going to repeat anybody's name, and I'm certainly not going to repeat what college that they came from. But they walked up to them. One girl was holding her phone, and the other girl took her drink, her soda, and she doused both men. That's right. They used the N-word on them, threatened them, and said that this is what we do to all of you blank who do this in front of our national anthem. And they said it should be a national anthem that says home of the slaves. Oh, yeah. I don't want to point anybody to who they are because they get enough pub on everywhere else. I'm not here to pub anybody for free. But here's my thing with this. Here we are again in an open arena, a ball game. And these two black men decide to sit at the anthem in their own silent protest. And they get attacked. And around all these people, no one called the police on these girls. They just did what they did. They took pictures of it. They put it on social media. And then they had to suffer the backlash from Black Twitter. But the fact is, my whole take on it is, you did this in front of all these people and nobody got up and said or did anything to you. You hurled racial slurs and threats at them at this baseball arena around all these people. And you all are telling me right now, as I'm reading along and following the story on Twitter and elsewhere, that they still haven't arrested these women? The only thing I could say about it, and I read the story in the Root, the only thing I could say about it was white privilege. Because that's all it is. It's white privilege. Had the tables been reversed, we got to be honest. You know, those two black women who doused soda on two white men for, their silent protest would have been arrested, thrown to the ground with somebody's knee in their face. We all know that's the truth. That's just how it works. But that happened. So, while I was appalled at what happened, the reality is there is no law that says you have to stand for the national anthem. We do it because we want to. It's showing our sign. It's honor for our country. When people are like, well, how can we honor our country if it continues to treat us this way? Because what they did clearly states why we have to have a protest. We're talking about injustices, disrespect, police brutality. And while we're doing a silent protest on our own time, on our own dime, with nobody else, don't even have to say anything, we're accosted for doing that. So there's no right or wrong way when black people protest. Let's just be real clear about that. There is no right or wrong way. If somebody said they don't like the way we protest, they can do anything to us, and we have absolutely no recourse, because guess what happens? We get arrested too. Case in point, Charlottesville, the young black man who is being accused of hitting one of the alt-right protesters with a pipe, but there's no clear evidence that he did it. He was beaten in an underground parking garage by 4 or 5 other white alt-right protesters, right? It was videotaped, pictures taken, people walking around watching it happen, right? And yet they haven't picked and they haven't found everybody that did it, and the people that they have found, they have lawyers. I read today that the young man, Mr. Harris, he's 20 years old. He's being charged with assault because even though they don't have evidence, he's being charged with assault by the very person, on the very person who beat the crap out of him. White privilege, black history. Yeah, I got that one. That's what I'm going to play right now. White privilege, black history. As soon as I can pull it up, you will understand what I'm talking about. Here we go. See, this is my problem with all these fabulous, amazing, and wonderful protests and gatherings. All the nations that have come together to help the indigenous people to keep big corporations from drilling for oil on their native land and sacred burial grounds. We want to keep them from destroying the ecosystem for what could possibly be 100 generations. It's so amazing how every nation came together again and protested in every airport in the country, and how ride sharing came to a halt. The workers just refused to work, and the CEO of the company donated $1 million to the cause. I mean, just thinking about the unfathomable amount of human beings around the world that came together for the Women's March, it blows me away. Even the press and all the mass media are in one accord against the orange one because their integrity is in question, as if it wasn't before. Every person I know has an opinion of outrage and disgust, everyone agreeing to that moral outrage because of the actions of the current administration. See, I can call them that at least. But what about us, the disenfranchised black people of this country? We who protested and cried out for help when Trayvon and Michael and Eric and dozens more black men were murdered in their own neighborhoods through the abuse of authority in the police force in this country. Where was the moral outrage of all the nations in this country then? Where were the veterans and the women's rights groups and the Muslims and the immigrants who are being rounded up and told they have to leave now? Where are the Mexicans who are looking at a possible wall built to keep them out of this country? I want to laugh at that, but I won't. Where are the indigenous people? All 60 nations. The press was there because there was a story to be told and sold to get shares on the open market. Where were the judges and politicians making stands and speeches and proclamations overturning unjust and poor decisions, demanding investigations into each and every one of the officers involved, changing the laws? They have that authority. You looked at us as we marched and yelled in righteous indignation, crying out for justice, begging to be seen and heard by deaf ears. And there was a dead silence for many of our non-black communities. While I really do understand that many of you do agree that the treatment of my people has been deplorable, disgusting, and inhumane, why didn't you come out in droves and become that protective shield that everyone else has with your white privilege? If you just all showed up, that protest would have been different. But you didn't. Black history tells the truth, just not as much as yours. Black Lives Matter, the social activism group, has been petitioned to the Senate to be designated as a terrorist group. Whom did we terrorize? When was your way of life in jeopardy? Were you afraid we would march right up to your doorstep and shine a light on your white privilege? Did you think that the financial value of your home would decrease if you showed up? Did you think that your precious children, and they are, would see the evil underbelly of racism that is the beast that devours this country? Progressives, liberals, Democrats, Republicans, you all say all lives matter, and they do. Mine just matters less than yours. And if you think I'm blowing smoke up your ass or whining, there's your proof right there about how you really feel. Come out from behind your doors and windows. Stop using your children as an excuse for not showing up. We know it's dangerous undertaking to stand side by us. We know because we're out there in the underbelly of the beast of hatred all the time. We are the disenfranchised. I know you're afraid that the police will not see your white privilege and shoot you too, but this is what we face every day. Do I have to remind you of the bodies hung on trees, metaphorically called strange fruit? We are that strange fruit. Do I have to continue to draw your attention to the young black men burned on a cross and laid on a heap of smoldering wood while white privilege stands around gawking at him, proud of what they have done? Do I have to show you Philip Castile dying from a gunshot wound on a social media video from a police officer who saw him as a threat to society and not a father of the child in the back seat or the mother in the front seat behind the wheel begging him to stay alive through the mere virtue of his own will? He died anyway, and the wife, she was handcuffed, her child taken from her temporarily. However, we are called terrorists, and you buy into it. Why? What terrors in the night have we brought upon you? And do you lay awake at night thinking, I could just join in that march, make a difference? But the police might not see my white privilege. All they may see is what? Human beings standing for the rights of other human beings. You have the power to make the powers that be see me as a human being. You have the power to turn the tide of racism to love and acceptance of your fellow man. You used it on the righteous indignation you felt when immigrants were banned from our country. You felt it when you heard a wall was being built to keep out our southern brothers from another mother. You felt it when the rights of women were being stepped on for the umpteenth time in the greatest march in the history of protests. But when we get together to protest the hypocrisy of our government, the unjust treatment of our people, the genocide of our nation, you go stone cold silent. We continue to cry out for help for all the unjust, discriminatory, and outright hateful actions against us. And you know that they are. But you won't stand with us. Well, I told you. Black privilege, black privilege, black privilege. Yeah, I wish it was white privilege, black history. I'm Johanna Bright, and this is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. That battle has been going on for a long time, and so far, the battle rages on. There's no victory. There has been small skirmishes, victorious skirmishes, but the war continues. All right, so I'm gonna slow it down for a second because I kind of figured this was going to come up soon as I heard and read about what happened with Harvey Weinstein. Because let's face it, he is being accused of the very thing that Bill Cosby was accused of. I'm Joe Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD. Follow me at mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. That's my website. You can listen to this and read my poetry, buy your favorite track. All there on my website. One-stop shopping. I like that. So anyway, back to Harvey Weinstein. This man admits that he's guilty of the things that he's done. His wife has packed and left him. There are women coming in droves saying that this is what this man has done to me. Bill Cosby still contends his innocence, however, and I'm still out on the fence on this one because there have been deals made with some of these women who are accusing Bill Cosby. They accepted a settlement agreement and were supposedly, signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, saying that they wouldn't talk about it anymore. And that in itself begs a whole nother conversation. But Weinstein himself has admitted his guilt. And while there is a lot of bashing done even today on Bill Cosby, because he's still going back and forth to court over it, we're talking about a man, Mr. Weinstein, if I can call you Mr., admits to his guilt. I haven't read anything yet that said he was arrested. Anybody seen that yet? I have not seen him in handcuffs being taken to jail for what he's done, especially since he's admitted to it. Isn't that usually what happens when a person admits to their guilt? They get arrested and go to jail, even if it's just for a couple hours until they can get bailed out. So I read the story. It said that Hollywood was lining up behind him, and this is specifically what I read, that's the culture. Really? Yes, Hollywood says that's the culture here. Those kinds of things happen sometimes, but they didn't say that when it happened to Bill Cosby. Yes. So there we are again, people. White privilege, black history. It just keeps coming up. And, normally you wouldn't say anything. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just speaking the truth. It's just is what it is. Hillary Clinton said that she was sick, shocked, and appalled by Weinstein allegations. And it's the verbiage that they're using that's kind of making me a little crazy. Allegations? It can't be allegations if he said, yeah, I did that. It's not allegations anymore. He's admitted to it. He should be handcuffed and thrown in jail. So, and let's just face it. Everybody knows that that's the problem. Here is my take on it. This man and men like him and other abusers like them would not get away with doing those things if we who are the victims, and yes, I am a victim myself, would just stand up and stand together and stand strong like they're doing right now. Because the more women stand up and say, you know what, he did that to me. He groped me. He kissed me. He put his hands on he spoke to me in the workplace and made me feel uncomfortable, and that's just how I feel every time I walk into the workplace. Or this person did this to me right here in front of everybody, but we never say anything. Well, we need to find our voices, and we need to say, I will not be a victim of abuse anymore, because every time we do not say anything after someone has abused us, molested us, sexually harassed us, raped us, you're giving permission for the next person to have that done to them, and so on and so on. I know it's harsh, but I am also someone who's lived through that kind of a reality. And I think that those of us who have had to live through that kind of a reality, we need to make sure that we stand strong, stand tall, and stand together, and not allow these people who do these things to us get away with it anymore. Because that's just the way it is. They should not be allowed to get away with it anymore. And it doesn't matter how long ago it was. You might think the statute of limitations might be up, and that's just fine. Lawfully, if the statute of limitations are up, you still should say something. Because the young girl sitting next to you, the little girl who's going to school with your children, they all need to feel empowered. That's right. And I don't mean just black girl power. Women. We make up 65% of this nation's buying power, black women, women in general. So let's stand together and stand strong, and let's say we will not be harassed and molested and made to feel ashamed because something happened to us. Or maybe because, personally, I thought, I didn't say anything because I didn't think it was happening to anyone but me. But then when you speak up and you find out that it's happening to other women just like you, right next to you, afraid to say anything because we're afraid to lose our jobs. We're afraid to lose our friends. We're afraid to force our abusers, because you have to. We're filled with fear. I say slough off the fear and tell that fucker, you know what? Enough of you. Find your voice, stand up strong, stand up straight, stand up tall, and don't allow it to happen to you ever, ever again. So that the girls coming up behind us will say, my mama, my sister, my auntie, my aunt, my uncle, because there are men who will stand strong with us. You out there, man, thank you very much. And they will let the rest of these assholes know you're not allowed to do that. No does mean no. All day long. From the N to the O, no means no. All right. So let's move it on along here. I only have so much time. I'm Johanna Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. We're about to find out what I feel about what right feels like. So, this is what right feels like. It doesn't feel like what you would have thought. I don't have more friends than before. People aren't hitting me up for advice everywhere I go.
I haven't been invited to all the best functions. In fact, it's just the opposite. I thought I'd be feeling empowered and full of strength and determination, the will to soldier on, take a stand. Just the opposite. Every day, I have to find the strength to get up and face the day, question my motives behind everything, stand up for truth, dignity, justice, oppression, just doing the right thing. I have to check myself first, not be a hypocrite. Remember that. Strange bedfellows. Why do I cry for you and I don't even know who you are? As every day goes by and tensions build around my world, I'm told to dislike, disapprove, disassociate, and to show disinterest in you. Show complete disdain for your thoughts, your theses, your theologies, your themes of life. I should dishonor. When I see you walking down a park lane, when I hear you sing a melodious song of joy or cry out in elation, when your tears of grief reach across the continents by air, by sea, by screams of agony, because your nation cries out in pain, I'm supposed to feel nothing, shrug my shoulders in disbelief, tell myself they don't have the same lifestyle as I do, they don't have the same life principles as I do, so it's not supposed to matter. So why do I cry for you when I don't even know you? Whether they like it or not, we have the same relations by blood. And whether they want to admit it or not, somewhere down the line, we went our separate ways. We began to define ourselves by our own imaginations because we were disenchanted by the leaders of men, because the leaders of men decided to disengage themselves from the powers of God and became their own gods. We became disenfranchised in each other's lives. Now, there's no disappointments, delusions, just disseminations of characters, defaming and disregarding of trust, because there is no more trust. So, why do I cry for you when I don't even know you? Why does my heart swell with emotion? Why do I smile at your children and awe at your babies? We celebrate life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We marry, we work, we achieve goals, we argue the point of our individual realities within our families, our friends, frenemies, enemies, passing acquaintances, strangers. And yet I cry for you. I shed tears of joy when you're happy. I pour out agonizing buckets of water from my eyes when you mourn. I worry when your dear loved ones, leaders, entertainers, military dignitaries go missing, get hurt, have an issue, plead for help. I'm right there with you. And I cry for you as though we shared the same house on the same street with the same neighbors, watering our lawns, trimming our hedges, planting flowers, vacationing, having family parties and impromptu gatherings. Why? Because, like it or not, we are all cut from the same fabric of the universe. So I can't just throw my compassion aside and pretend you don't matter when I know you do. Because if you didn't, why would you put so much effort into not loving me? Why would I put so much effort into listening to why I shouldn't love you? Why would so much effort be put into not loving you?
Strange Bedfellows. That's what that was. And you can read that as well as what right feels like and what's it going to take and white privilege and black history. Those are all on my website at mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. I'm Johanna Bright, and this is Poetry Song BFD Battle for Dominance. Like, share, subscribe, enjoy this podcast and the ones coming up in the future. Okay, so what's up? This is my final thing for tonight. It's very devastating. I got this out of the New York Post, and I'm mentioning it because we can't keep allowing mass media to dictate to us what we think is important. I'm surprised that this story, if we still had paper newspapers, this story would probably today be page 8, page 9, and it shouldn't be. And what is this story about? This story is about sex slaves. Yep, sex slaves, also known as slaves, also known as young girls who get kidnapped by, and this one is specifically about, she said, inside my life as an ISIS sex slave. Now, don't go thinking right away that they're the only ones that do this. ISIS does it. Boko Haram does it. Where else did she say this happened? And because nobody's talking about it. Media doesn't do that. Big media does not allow you to make up your own mind of what you want to talk about. So it's ISIS, Boko Haram, and Al Shabaab. And in recent years, you know what they're doing? They're kidnapping these young girls and teenagers, some before they reach puberty, and these women are sold on the open market to men who, I mean, you can let your mind travel if you want to, but these young girls are, if they're old enough, they are bought and raped. They have their children, and they are raped in front of their children. They are raped in front of other girls. And if they're not old enough, like if they haven't reached the age of puberty where they have breasts, then they keep them for a few months, and when they come back, they check to see if they're old enough to be molested and raped again. This is the culture of the life that we as women have to overcome. And I honestly don't even know how women in this country can help women in that country when we're having a hard time keeping men in this country from putting their hands on us. Seriously. We can't keep the men in this country to keep their dick in their pants and their hands in their pockets when we walk by. There was a time when I was much younger, and everybody kind of knows this, and I don't even know if it still happens, because you reject all of that nonsense as you become a mature woman like myself. But they used to have these commercials on television, construction workers whistling at women. It was a big joke. It was always the woman, she's so sexy, she's so this, degrading us and dignifying everything that we do, and it was all for their entertainment, their pleasure, and their joy. And we lost our voice as women. And so it's not hard to see, if you have a brain, what injustice is. Women in this country, black people in this country, have been put down and made to feel less than themselves by whom else? The rich, privileged few. Now, some of them are black. A few of them is black. But the majority of them is white. All right? Like, you can't say that they're not white and privileged. And you say, well, why are they just white? Well, because those are the colors that I see the most. The white people. The privileged few. The 1%ers. It's a lot of them. And I just, I don't want to call anybody Uncle Tom like that, because that's honestly, that wouldn't even be the correct terminology. But those that turn and try to side with them, the Megyn Kellys of this world, and the other Megan that, it's like you don't seem to understand. You think that you're being smart by siding with the enemy, but the enemy is just using you. So why would you do that? But that's a whole nother conversation. The conversation that I'm having right now is about why we as women cannot stand up together as one. Not just once a year with the biggest 360 Women's March the world has ever known, but every day, all day long. We have that ability to do so. Hold on tight, because if we don't fix this now, we're going to be doing the same thing for our daughters and our granddaughters and our great-granddaughters. Legislation is not enough. It has to be an active, constant vigil by women to protect other women from monsters, because there's a lot of monsters. But it's a change in the wind. The wind is changing things. I feel very sorry. My heart breaks for these young girls who are being kidnapped to be used as a commodity to fund terrorism. That's what the article said. I'm not saying it. Said these women they're being sold as sex slaves to fund terrorism. This woman, she reportedly made these comments back in 2015. And let's just face it, she made these comments in 2015 and they're posting it today. That means it's still going on. Harvey Weinstein, you need to go over there to ISIS and do that stuff where they catch men doing stuff, and it's they're like, we didn't say you could do that. They will chop off your every little thing and hang it out to dry for everybody to see. That's what needs to happen because you've already said that you're guilty. Okay, so I want to end it on a happy note, and but it's hard to end things on a happy note in this day and age. I got this one. How about this? Imitation of Life.
The last movie I saw was so entertaining. We caught the late matinee. That's what we do these days when we have time from our oh so busy days. It was a Wednesday afternoon. There was a constant drizzle of rain that day. It kept making me think about whether I should wear a hat or a scarf or just carry my umbrella. Those things are useless most rainy days these days. We sat in a theater full of strangers. The lights dimmed, and 15 agonizing minutes later, the movie started. The hero lost his true love early on. A not so normal couple, just two people who didn't have a big house outside of the city or a plethora of friends who hung out with them after work or on the weekends. They didn't have fabulous jobs that afforded them beautiful cars or extravagant vacations. All they had was each other in their everyday life. And they did everyday things that we all related to on some level. When a happy couple was together, I felt every moment when their lips met and their bodies sweated and slid all over each other with their hands and their tongues. I was engulfed in every conversation they had about his life and her job and their friends and enemies and the troubles they had in their everyday life. I was devastated when she died, and I wanted to hold him in my arms. And I said to myself then, why do the writers have to separate happy couples and make them suffer? I mean, why can't movies just be about happiness? But that thought passed as I saw him at that horrific accident that changed his personality from mild-mannered good guy to arrogant prick. He had a chip on his shoulder the size of a cavern, and all he wanted was revenge. But it wasn't anyone's fault his true love died. He just needed to blame someone, anyone, even himself. I watched his life continue to spiral out of control as he lost one important piece of his life after another. When she died, there was no funeral. I mean, let's face it, the movies rarely cut to the funeral of people who live everyday lives. They just show us those who have to continue on, go on with our lives, whatever that means. It seemed he was trying to get himself killed. He put himself in impossible situations and fought anyone and everyone. Then he found a purpose in life with his newfound power, his new arrogance, his new freedom from death, because he wasn't afraid of death anymore. And I thought that the movie didn't really make sense. I didn't know where it was going. The scenes of happiness, lovemaking, smiling, eating, walking, running, laughing, screaming, pain, torture, lies, death, betrayal, power, vengeance, planning for the future, aching because of the past, the frustration of the present. And yet, he managed to be the hero at the end of the movie. I mean, he wasn't happier. He didn't fall in love with another person. He didn't make any long-lasting bond with a stranger along the way. He managed to right one wrong, and it was insignificant on the scale of wrongs today. But when he did it, it seemed everybody in the audience was cheering him on. And when the movie was over and the credits were rolling, because there's always credits to give, we all put on our coats, sweaters, scarves, hats. We grabbed our umbrellas and we all left. And that camaraderie we all felt, that left too. When we all got into the bright lights of the movie theater, suddenly we were faceless strangers again. Strangers who all went back to our faceless lives. But we were entertained by that movie.
Thank you for joining me. This is Johanna Bright, your host for Poetry Song, BFD, Battle for Dominance. Follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and everywhere else you can find. I am Johanna Bright. mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. You can go there and buy your fave track of my poetry for 99 cents. It's a one-stop shop. Enjoy the videos. Enjoy the poetry. You all have a blessed day and enjoy this fall weather. And remember, enjoy the journey with me, people. I'm saving the world one line at a time. Make it your mantra.